Chapter 2 State Government. India has a federal form of government, which means that there are two levels of government, one at the center and another in the states and union territories. The constitution divides the powers and functioning of the two governments clearly. Both the central and state governments have three organs: executive, legislature and judiciary. State legislature. Every Indian state has its own legislature. A state legislature usually consists of the governor of the state and one house of legislature called Vidhan Sabha, Legislature Assembly. Some states have two houses of legislature. The upper house is called the Vidhan Parishad or Legislature Council, and the Vidhan Sabha is the lower house. The legislature is said to be unicameral if it has one house and bicameral if it has two houses. The legislature of Andhra Pradesh, Bihar, Jammu and Kashmir, Maharashtra, Karnataka and Uttar Pradesh are bicameral. All the other state legislature are unicameral. Legislative Council. The Vidhan Parishad or Legislative Council does not exist in most of our states. The Vidhan Sabha of any state may decide to set up the Vidhan Parishad or to remove it. The decision is made known to the Parliament and the Parliament passes the law needed to give effect to the decision. The members of the Legislative Council are called MLCs. The number of members in the Legislative Council cannot be more than one-third of the number of members in the state's Legislative Assembly. Unlike the MLAs, the MLCs are not elected directly by the people. They are indirectly elected as follows. One-third of them are elected by the MLAs of the state. One-third are elected by the members of local government bodies such as municipalities and district boards. 1/12 are elected by university graduates living in the state. 1/12 are elected by teachers of secondary schools, colleges and universities. The remaining 1/6 are nominated by the governor of the state from distinguished artists, authors, social workers, etc. The members of the Legislative Council elect a chairman and a deputy chairman from among themselves. The chairman is the presiding officer of the house. In the chairman's absence, the deputy chairman presides. The Vidhan Parishad cannot be dissolved. Hence, it is a permanent body. One-third of its members retire every 2 years and new members are elected to the empty seats. Every member serves of 6 years. Legislative Assembly. Every state has a Legislative Assembly, also called the Vidhan Sabha. For the purpose of elections, the state is divided into units called assembly constituencies. The higher the population of the state, the larger is the number of constituencies in the state. Each constituency elects one representative. So, while Uttar Pradesh, a populous state, has 404 members in its assembly, Sikkim, with a much lower population, has only 32. The constitution has set an upper and lower limit for the number of seats in a legislative assembly. Accordingly, it cannot be more than 500 or less than 60. However, there have been exemptions made in case of Goa, Mizoram and Sikkim. Their assemblies have less than 60 members. The members of the Legislative Assembly elect from among themselves a speaker and a deputy speaker. The speaker presides over the meetings of the house, maintains order within the house and takes votes on issues. During the speaker's absence, his work is done by the deputy speaker. The Legislative Assembly is elected for a term of 5 years. Under certain circumstances, however, the governor can dissolve the house before the completion of its term. The term may also be extended in case a state of emergency has been declared by the president. However, this extension shall not be for more than a year at a time. After the emergency has been called off, the extension cannot continue for more than 6 months. The members of legislative assemblies, MLAs, are elected directly by the people. Once the assembly is dissolved, the Election Commission announces the program for general election to the State Assembly. Political parties field their candidates. There may also be some independent candidates. The election campaign begins in every constituency. In previous chapter, you have studied in some detail how general elections to the Lok Sabha are conducted. The procedure is more or less the same in the case of assembly elections. Who can elected to the Legislative Assembly? A candidate contesting the assembly elections of a state should be I. A citizen of India, 2. A voter in any constituency of that state, 3. Not less than 25 years of age, and 4. In the case of a seat reserved for the scheduled castes tribes, a member of any of those castes or tribes. Governor. The executive power of the state is vested in the governor. All executive actions are taken in the name of the governor. Every state has a governor, and at times, the same person may officiate as the governor of two states. The governor of the state is not elected but is appointed by the president. To be eligible for the post of a governor, a person must be a citizen of India and must not be less than 35 years of age. She or he must not hold any office of profit and must not be an elected member of parliament or any state legislative assembly. But if a member of the legislature is appointed as a governor, the member should resign from her or his membership. Most of the powers and functions of a governor are similar to those of the president, but at the state level, all executive powers of the state government are vested in the governor. He or she appoints the chief minister, who is the leader of the majority party. He or she also appoints the other members of the Council of Ministers on the advice of the chief minister. The governor also appoints the Advocate General and chairman and members of the State Public Service Commission. The governor is consulted by the president in the appointment of judges to the High Court. The governor has the power to nominate one member of the Anglo-Indian community to the Legislative Assembly of his state. The governor can nominate persons having special knowledge or practical experience in fields such as literature, science, art and social service to the Legislative Council. The governor has the power to summon and provoke the sessions of the state legislature. The first session after the elections and the first session every year begin with a governor's address. He or she can dissolve the state legislature. On certain occasions, when the state legislature is not in session, the governor can issue orders called ordinances. These ordinances are submitted to the state legislature at its next session. They are valid for not more than 6 weeks from the date when the state legislature begins its session. A very important power of the governor is that every bill passed by the state legislature has to receive the governor's assent. He or she also has the power to grant pardon or reduce the punishment or a sentence passed by the courts under the state's laws. The governor has some powers which he or she can use on his or her own in special situations. He or she need not act on the advice of the Council of Ministers to use these powers. These special powers are called discretionary powers. They are, if no single party has a majority in the assembly, the governor can use his or her discretion in appointing the chief minister. The governor can use his or her discretionary power to reserve any bill for the consideration of the president. The governor can also report to the president that the state government is not functioning according to the constitution. On the basis of this report, the president can proclaim emergency in the state. This is called imposition of president's rule, and during his period, the governor practically runs the state government. Chief Minister. The chief minister is the factual head of the state. The chief minister performs almost similar functions in the state as those of a prime minister at the center. After the general elections, the leader of the party that has won the majority in the Vidhan Sabha is invited by the governor to form the government. The other parties form the opposition. In the absence of a clear majority, a coalition government is formed. The leader is appointed as the chief minister by the governor. After that, upon the recommendation of the chief minister, the governor also swears in the Council of Ministers that assists the chief minister in the smooth functioning of the government. The chief minister informs the governor about all the decisions of the Council of Ministers pertaining to administration and legislation. The other functions of the Chief Minister include presiding over the cabinet meetings, distributing the portfolio among the ministers, appointing the Deputy Chief Minister, retaining charge of the portfolios which are not under any other minister, maintaining good relations with the central government, holding responsibility for the government of the state. If a vote of no confidence against government is passed in the assembly, then the entire ministry has to resign. Council of Ministers. The Council of Ministers is collectively responsible to the legislative assembly of the state. It is chosen by the Chief Minister from the elected legislators. The total number of ministers should not be more than 15% of the total strength of the Legislative Assembly. There are 3 categories of ministers at the state level. Cabinet ministers hold the overall charge of their portfolios. Ministers of state and deputy ministers assist the cabinet ministers. Civil services. The decisions of the ministers are actually executed by officers of the civil service. They are the ones who run the administration at the state level. In the same way as it is at the center, some officers of the Indian Administrative Service (IAS) and Indian Police Service (IPS) are appointed at the state level. The State's Public Service Commission (PSC) also selects a certain number of officials. The Chief Secretary heads the civil service in a state. Secretaries in charge of various departments work under her or him. Deputy secretaries, under-secretaries, directors and deputy directors assist them. The state is divided into administrative units called divisions, which are looked after by divisional commissioners. These in turn are divided into districts, administered by district magistrates. The Advocate General. Each state has an official called the Advocate General who gives advice to the executive on legal matters and performs other legal functions assigned by the governor. He or she is appointed by the governor and holds office during the pleasure of the governor. Only a person qualified to be a High Court judge is eligible for the post. The Advocate General can take part in the proceedings of the state legislature but does not have the right to vote. It is necessary for the working of these bodies that all citizens cooperate in the administrative process.